The appointments are lined up.
You waiting for somebody in there?
Got an appointment.
And it's not about what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
It's not personal. It's strictly business. It's time you and me had a private talk, Winger. Step into my office.
It's Step Into My Office with Michael Lombardi. Mr. Lombardi, we'll see you now.
Oh, we absolutely love the imaging here. The great work that our crew puts together here. Michael, it's 2:15 Eastern, 11:15 Pacific, means that it's time for some appointments, and we'll start with the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, my man Nick Sirianni. You know, I think what I see watching the tape of the Philadelphia Eagles, and if I'm Nick Sirianni and I'm you and I'm trying to help you, I think we got to start practicing. Our pad level's horrible. We don't get off blocks. We don't tackle very well. We missed so many tackles yesterday. Look, we are limited in terms of our personnel. I get that. But there are times where we have a chance to make a tackle and we can't tackle them. We don't play off blocks with any consistency. And our defensive personnel in terms of their fundamentals and techniques are eroding. So I think you got to get back to the basics. You got to play one or two fronts, let the defensive line, and you're going to have to get this defensive line to play at a higher level. I don't know what their conditioning level is, but it doesn't seem like they play with great intensity. That's how you won games last year. Your defense has always been driven by the front. And when the front doesn't play well, that's not going to work. And then I think the other thing is, you went into a game yesterday where I thought for sure you were going to control the ball for 40 minutes, that you were going to be able to run the ball for 200 yards. And yet, when I looked at the stat sheet, that's exactly what the Arizona Cardinals did, and you didn't. And so you got to get better at situational. Look, there's no team in the league better than the Philadelphia Eagles on 4th or 3rd and 1. And if you can play less defense, that's going to help you. And the only way you're going to play less defense is to control the clock and run the ball and milk the clock. You're going to have to milk the clock because this defense is not going to get better over the next 4 weeks against any team you play. You couldn't win in Seattle. You couldn't beat a bad Arizona Cardinal team. You're certainly not going to beat a Ram team if they came into Philadelphia. You might be able to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers only because they're not an explosive offensive team. But to beat these upper echelon teams, you're going to have the ball for 40 minutes and only give it to them for 20. And that gets back to running the football, which is what you did last year. And unfortunately, this year, you haven't been able to. You've given up 150 yards rushing over the last 7 games. You need to fix it.
Yeah, the Eagles, they've lost 4 of their last 5. After starting the year 10-1, they're definitely limping into the playoffs and have opened the door for the Cowboys to steal the division. Speaking of the Cowboys, everybody watched the Lions-Cowboys game Saturday night, and we know officiating is a hot-button topic amongst NFL fans, but the biggest debacle happened at the end of the game with the 2-point conversion, and Brad Allen, the head official, and his crew under scrutiny after that game, after the ineligible receiver went ahead and stole that victory from the Detroit Lions. So Brad Allen is up. What does he need to hear?
I think what you need to hear, Brad, is you made a mistake. Like, at some point, you guys that are officials that control the action of others, and you control the careers of others as well. You made a horrible mistake. Your crew's bad, and you've made bad decisions. And in a world that we live in with instant replay and time, if we're going to take 20 seconds or a minute 20 to go look at a replay, why wouldn't we take time to understand what happened in that situation? Why were we so quick to try to prove ourselves correct? There's visual evidence that we see Taylor Lewan go over to you and tell you he's the guy, right? Taylor Decker, I'm sorry.
Yep.
He goes over there and says, I'm the guy. And yet now you're trying to tell us that he didn't and there's a miscommunication. There's no miscommunication. You know, you just made a mistake and you cost them the game. Now, they cost themselves the game too. They have as much to blame as you do. But to me, I think at some point you got to admit you made a mistake. And this isn't because you have a hearing loss. This is a mistake that you made that you're trying to correct based on miscommunication, which is not true. We all see it. We all see it. We've got visual evidence.
Yeah, it's funny how the visual evidence backs up what the Detroit Lions are saying. It doesn't back up with what Brad Allen is saying there. And ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that the crew has been, quote, downgraded, and a large part of Allen's crew is not going to be officiating in the postseason. They need to get rid of the large part and just say nobody from that crew is going to be in the postseason. All right.
I mean, come on. You see Brad Allen show up at a game? I mean, you know, seriously, they try to put Brad Allen in a game. You can't. They'll go berserk. I mean, they're going to go crazy if they see Brad Allen at a game, wouldn't you?
Guy's like the Grim Reaper now. You don't want him showing up, knocking on your door, saying hello. I'm doing this wild card game. Good luck. The Chicago Bears, Michael, yesterday were eliminated from postseason contention, but they've been playing well as of late and have a lot of big decisions to make here in the offseason. So Kevin Warren, the president of the Chicago Bears, what does he need to hear ahead of a pivotal offseason for his franchise?
I think the best thing Kevin Warren can do is sit back and listen. I would tell Kevin to call in Ryan Poles away from Matt Eberflus and ask him how this team is going to win next year and over the next 4 years, and what's the plan for that? How do we visualize that? How do we see that occurring, and what is it going to take to get there, and what do you have planned for that? And then bring Eberflus in, and then basically then ask both of them separately, are we willing to pay Justin Fields the going rate for a quarterback? If you both are willing to do that, if that's what you want to do, if that's what we're willing to do, we're staking the franchise's future on that decision. And listen for the answers. And if you like what you hear, go forward. If you don't like what you hear, then you're going to have to make some decisions and you're going to have to make some corrections. I think Eberflus has done a great job. There's no question. The defense has played much better. Fields has played better. The real question is Fields going to be on the team next year? The question is, are we willing to give Fields $45 million a year over 5 years? You got to answer that question. Bear fans are chanting for him to come back. They don't pay the $50 million. They don't pay the $45 million. They just want a good quarterback. And you're going to have to compare the quarterbacks out there. This is the chance. This is the defining moment of the Chicago Bears organization. It happens to a lot of teams. The Philadelphia 76ers had this moment, and they traded for Markelle Fultz, and they screwed up their franchise. What are you going to do? I think it's really important.
Yeah, Chicago Bears securing the number 1 overall pick after the Panthers lost to the Jaguars yesterday. So the Bears, they're winning games, but they also get the top pick in the draft. All right, Mike McDaniel, head coach of the Miami Dolphins. His team took it on the chin yesterday. What does he need to hear?
Well, look, I mean, Mike needs to hear really simply this. How are we going to get healthy? We got to get healthy to win. And where are we in terms of our health? And then I think what you got to try to do is you're going to have to try to control the ball. You got to run the football. And that's really what you do well right now. And I think, to me, the other thing you're going to have to do is try to find a way to get some pass rush and find a way to take away the number 1 receiver of the other team. You're going to have to move Ramsey around. They're going to have to do a bunch of different things. But at the end of the day, we don't have another corner. We do not have another corner, and that's a problem. And I think that problem is going to continue to show up. So, Mike McDaniel, you're going to have to control with offense. I think people are onto our game right now, and I think it's going to be challenging for us to move the ball consistently offensively with the offensive line, without Waddle, and with a quarterback with a bad shoulder. We're going to have to rely on our running backs. We're going to have to get healthy in the backfield.
2023 was a rocky season for the Denver Broncos. Started off poorly, then they got hot, and then they fizzled out over the last few weeks here and have now been eliminated from postseason contention. Head coach Sean Payton was obviously in the headlines after they benched Russell Wilson earlier last week. What does he need to hear heading into the offseason?
Look, you're going to be stuck with Russell for the next 2 years, $85 million. What you need to do is find an economically friendly quarterback, not one that's $30 million, one like Stidham that's $10 million. And then build a team around them. I mean, once again, Garrett Bowles gets holding penalties, which kills your offense. At some point, you're going to have to fix this offensive line. You tried last year. I'm not sure it worked. Defensively, you just need to keep having good drafts. You're just going to need to build a team around you and figure you can manage the offense and manage the quarterback. Because for the next 2 years, you're in rebuild mold. You're not in chasing Super Bowl mold. And I think you have to accept that. You're going to have some really good drafts and get this personnel department fixed to where you want it so that you've got a lot of good young players like you started to have in New Orleans.
It was a tough season for the Denver Broncos here, but, I mean, they had moments of brilliance and then moments that were not so great here. But they got the win on Sunday, even though it was pretty ugly. Stidham, what did you think of his performance real quick before we had to break?
I thought it was just average. I think they didn't want anything. They didn't want him to lose the game. And I think that they played a smart game. I don't think they tried to. I thought he started out sluggish and slow, but I thought for the most part he was average. He did exactly what Russell Wilson would have done.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.